Hey guys, Justin Nelson here, and we are doing our first YouTube video in our brand new studio here in our Dallas HQ. We are going to cover what is an ethical wage for a virtual assistant. This is a question that I get all the time, and after 12,000 plus virtual assistant placements across 5,000 plus business owners, it's a question that I can answer for you right now. All right, so you want to know what is an ethical wage to pay a virtual assistant. And so the thing that I always like to do is I always like to go off of facts and not emotions. And so throughout today's YouTube video, we're going to throw up a few facts on the screen for you guys to take a look at. So I want to take you guys through a quick process on how we determine what is an ethical wage to pay a virtual assistant, because one of the things that we found is when we source virtual assistants from across the globe, different countries have different currencies, they have different exchange rates. A lot of you guys watching this video, you maybe haven't even traveled to Asia or Eastern Europe or South Africa or LATAM, and so you don't even know anything about the currency exchanges. You don't know about local jobs, local economies, and so I just want to break it down as simple as I can. When I'm in the United States and I'm looking at what is an ethical wage, well, the United States government and the United States themselves, they determine what is an ethical wage by setting minimums, right? We're looking at minimum wages on a federal level, and then the states have to, as long as they're above the federal level. Here, you guys will see right now in the United States that this is the federal minimum wage. And then over here, you guys will see a few of the states, this one specifically for Texas, for example, where our HQ is, those are the minimum wages for our country. And so for me, as a business owner, those are what the government, the institutions that have spent billions of dollars to study economics and different things, says that at least people need to make this amount of money. Obviously, as a business owner here in the United States, whenever I hire someone in the United States, I always like to go as far above it as I possibly can if the company has the budget for it, depending on the position, skill sets, experience, all those different things. But obviously, I can't legally go below it. I'm not usually trying to stay right at it. I'm usually trying to obviously make sure people make really, really good money. And so the same thing applies in the Philippines, for example. Even though Sphere Rocket services the Philippines, Latin America, Europe, South Africa, India, a few different places that we can find talent from. One of the key things I look at again is I go to the country itself, and I'm going to trust that the government in that country has the right standards and the right practices, and I'll look at there. So for example, in the Philippines, you guys are going to see a minimum wage posted up here. Now in the Philippines, for example, it's going to be different in Metro Manila versus in the provinces, but I'll just put Metro Manila here, for example, up here on the screen, so you guys will see what the minimum wage is for Metro Manila. Now in the Philippines specifically, you guys are going to see on these two lists, it's going to be also determined by what industry is it in, right? Like in the United States, it's just kind of a flat fee. The Philippines is going to have more of based on the position, the industry, different things along those lines. And so, when you're asking what is fair, I always use those as standard. The next thing I like to do a lot of the time, so that's kind of process number one before I get to my answer. Process number two that I like to do is I like to look up the position I'm hiring in said country, right? And so if I'm hiring an executive assistant, if you use a company like Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants, we're going to help you with all this information to make sure you're paying people right, you're getting the best talent for your best bang for your buck. Let's just say you didn't do that and you were trying to figure this out on your own. You might just look up, hey, what does an executive assistant make in the United States? I would look up on Indeed, all these different websites, on Monster Jobs, whatever exists, right? I'd look up the website, I look in Dallas, Texas, what's an executive assistant make? And it's going to spit you out an average. It's going to show you all the job postings from all the big companies. You're going to see a company like Walmart and Tesla and all these companies from across Texas, and they're going to say an executive assistant makes, let's say, $50K a year. That gives me a good baseline as a company when I want to go hire my executive assistant on what, a fair and marketable wage is, what's competitive. And the same thing is going to be applicable in the Philippines. Whenever I'm hiring an executive assistant from the Philippines, I'm not going to go on Fiverr or Upwork or on random job posting websites, or what we call platforms for contractors or marketplaces. I'm going to go look at things like Indeed in the Philippines. I'm going to go look at the different job platforms in the Philippines, and I'm going to look at, what is Chase Bank in the Philippines hiring executive assistants at? What is Apple in the Philippines hiring executive assistants at? What is Amazon in the Philippines doing hiring wise? And because this is going to let you know what's competitive, right? If Amazon is paying people $6 an hour to be an executive assistant in the Philippines, just as an example, well, that tells you that you can be pretty competitive with Amazon if you pay $6 an hour. Could Should you pay $4 or $5 an hour? Sure. Is it as competitive as them working for Amazon? Probably not. But maybe you can offer 5 because they're getting to work from home. They're not having to commute. But maybe you have to offer 6 because when, depending on how you set it up, they might be getting benefits. They might not be getting benefits. So there's just all these things that come into play that SphereRocket obviously helps our clients with. But just to give you a contextual answer, people all the time debate, what's an ethical wage? My VA wants this. My VA wants that. Guys, I always look to the government standards first, obviously, to make sure we're meeting those and usually exceeding them by quite a bit. And then I'm going to look at the local job market to see what is the job market out there paying for that position, right? Just because and as we have this all the time with business owners, just because I, think that I should pay a VA $10 an hour because I think 7's too low. Well, if the job market out there is only paying 7, like there's no need to go pay a ton extra if you don't have to, right? But the same thing is done in reverse, right? So many people in the United States think that they can hire a virtual assistant for $2 an hour because it might be over the minimum wage threshold where that virtual assistant lives, depending on the country. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily should pay that low because number one, it's not competitive. You're probably not going to get a high stick rate, right? My personal belief as a CEO is I want to exceed the standards by more than I normally should. And then I also want to make sure my people are paid extremely well. But at a minimum, you have to make sure you guys are paying people at what the government sets these different things to be. Anything outside of that's completely unethical and it's just not something that we stand for. And so when you're asking yourself, what should we do? I don't know. It's up to you. Follow the standards. Now, to help you out, instead of saying just, I don't know, I made an awesome website down below, guys. You guys will see a link to what we call our US wage comparison chart. This chart will allow you guys to compare, an executive assistant in the United States versus the Philippines versus Latin America and so on. There will be some information on there about each country's standards and rules and regulations to help you guys kind of navigate that. And then of course, on that same page, if you guys ever need a virtual assistant from SphereRocket Virtual Assistants, you guys can browse talent, browse different people, book a call with our team, and we're happy to help you go find that rockstar talent. So questions like this, you don't have to worry about, you don't have to research yourself. You can know that you find an awesome virtual assistant that is being paid well and being taken care of and is going to stick with you for a very long time due to the economic benefit that you can have for them and that they can have for you in return. So with that being said, Justin Nelson here at SphereRocket Virtual Assistants. What should you pay your VA? What is an ethical wage? You'll find out below in the calculator.